Pictures taken before disaster, part 1. So here we have a picture of 3 friends hanging out on some train tracks in Utah. The girls were so caught up in the moment that they didn't even notice the halo of light or the train coming at them, and all 3 were struck and killed by it. Pictures taken before disaster, part 2. So a mom of 2 was on the way home on her bike, and she snapped this picture with some friends. Shortly after taking the snap, she hit a patch of bumpy road, crashed, hitting her head, which ultimately resulted in her dying. Pictures taken before disaster, part 3. So in 2015, there was a hashtag selfie Olympics going around, and people were challenged to take like the most extreme selfies and stuff like that. This leads to a boy named Oscar Reyes, who took this selfie hanging from his shower and went pretty viral for it. So he tried to top his success, but he ended up slipping, hitting his head on the toilet, and passing away from his injuries. Pictures taken before disaster, part 4. So next up we got this sweet little family pic here. But if you take a nice close look, right there is a rattlesnake getting ready to strike the mom on the arm. It was said that both the mom and the dog got bit by the snake. The mom survived, all was well with her, but the dog died, so that's pretty freaking sad. Pictures taken before disaster, part 5. So in this picture here, we see a couple posing in front of Niagara Falls, but if you look in the background at the girl in red, moments after this picture was taken, she lost her footing and fell over the railing and ended up passing away. Her body was found about a week later, so yeah, pretty dang sad and pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 6, I think. So here we have a class photo, and if we look up here in the top corner, we have a couple students making some signs at the camera. Those 2 students just happen to be Eric Harris and Dylan Klebhold, who were behind the Columbine High School massacre. They walked into the school and proceeded to take 15 lives, including theirs, that day. Pictures taken before disaster, part 7. So here we have a couple hugging it out, showing their love for each other at a gas station, which just so happens to be the last picture ever taken of Lucas Fowler and China Deese. The couple were traveling across Canada via this van right here when it broke down, leaving them stranded on the side of the road. During this time, teenagers Cam McLeod and Brian Smegelski pulled up to them and ended up taking their lives before going on the run. While on the run, they claimed another victim and then took their own lives. So yeah, that's pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 8. So here we have a picture of Christina Grimmie performing at what was her last concert. After the show ended, there was a meet and greet, and during this meet and greet, this man here approached Christina Grimmie. She approached him with open arms, and he opened fire on her, and she ended up dying. He later took his life. Pictures taken before disaster, part 9. Here we have a couple posing with drinks in hand as they await to see the band Eagles of Death Metal. Not long after this picture was taken, armed men showed up and proceeded to open fire on the crowd. 89 lives were lost that day, including this man here named Gilles, but the girl whose name was Marianne survived. Pictures taken before disaster, part 10. So here we have a picture of the woods, and that just so happens to be a bear right there. Well, unfortunately for the man who took this photo, the bear didn't like having his picture taken because shortly after he caught up with the dude, attacked him, and ended up taking his life, so that's pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 10. So here we have a picture of singer-songwriter Selena just the day before she was killed. After that picture was taken, the next day her life was taken by Yolanda Saldivar, who was working for Selena, but Selena found out that Yolanda was stealing money from her, so Selena fired her, and Yolanda pulled out and ended up killing Selena. Pictures taken before disaster, part 11. So here we have a picture of a man named James Holmes. James took this selfie just before he armed himself and went to a Colorado theater and opened fire on an audience. During this showing of The Dark Knight, he wounded 70 and killed 12. He was convicted of 165 counts and he now rots in prison. Pictures taken before disaster, part 11. A man named Dave Halley took this picture of his wife and their daughter before they left on their dream vacation on flight MH17. Shortly after the takeoff, this plane was shot down over Ukraine by Russia-led forces, and it took everyone on board's lives. So that's pretty sad, pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 13. So this picture here was taken on the way to the airport and is the last known picture of any of these people, most notably Jenni Rivera. If you don't know, Jenni Rivera was a singer-songwriter, and her along with her people were boarding a plane to go to Mexico. 15 minutes after this plane took off, contact was lost, and the next day the wreckage was found in Nuevo Leon, leaving no survivors. Pictures taken before disaster, part 14. The following pictures are grabbed from a video which shows a boy dancing at an arcade on Dance Dance Revolution. This boy just so happens to be Adam Lanza. If you don't know who Adam Lanza is, he armed himself and walked into Sandy Hook Elementary School. He ended up taking 27 lives, including his own. So yeah, pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 15. So here we have one of the last known pictures of Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate was an up-and-coming actress and model who just so happened to be pregnant at the time. But on August 9th of 1969, some of Charles Manson's followers broke into Sharon Tate's place and ended up taking her life as well as 4 of her friends. So yeah, pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 16. Here we have a picture taken just moments before the NASA crew on the Challenge took off in 1986. But around 73 seconds after taking off, the shuttle broke apart and took all 7 lives of the people on board. So yeah, pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 17. Here we got a picture of 2 girls. One's named Cheyenne Antoine, the other is Brittany Gargle. They were supposedly best friends. Shortly after this picture was taken, the 2 girls got into a heated argument, which resulted in Cheyenne strangling Brittany with the belt she's wearing right here. After taking Brittany's life, Cheyenne dumped the body along with the belt, which was found near the body. Soon after, police saw this picture posted on Facebook and noticed that Cheyenne was wearing the weapon that took Brittany's life. So they put 2 and 2 together and Cheyenne was arrested. Pictures taken before disaster, part 18. Back in 2004, there was a huge tsunami in Southeast Asia. This took the lives of around 200,000 people. One of those lives just so happened to be Deborah Garlick, the woman pictured here, who was 31 years old and was vacationing in Thailand at the time. Her parents were able to track down Deborah's belongings, and they found this picture in the possessions. So yeah, that's pretty sad, pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 19. So, in this picture here, we have a man named James Brock dumping acid into the pool while people swam in it. This was taken at Monson Motor Lodge in St. Augustine, Florida, and he was trying to disrupt the protesters who were protesting the whites-only hotel policy. This was taken at Monson Motor Lodge in St. Augustine, Florida, and the man you see there is James, who was the owner of the hotel, and he was trying to disrupt the protesters in the pool who were protesting the hotel's whites-only policy. So yeah, he dumped the acid, and yeah, that's pretty scary, pretty messed up. Pictures taken before disaster, part 20. Here we got a chick named Geraldine who decided to go on a solo hiking trip in the Appalachian Mountains, which just so happened to be her last trip ever. She ended up getting lost out in the wilderness, and she survived on her own for about 30 days, which is kind of impressive, before succumbing to dehydration, starvation, exposure, all the above. While she stumbled around in the woods getting more lost, she chronicled it in a notebook, and her body wasn't found for 2 years. Pictures taken before disaster, part 21. So here we got Juice WRLD along with some of his people on an airplane. On December 8th of 2018, Juice WRLD and his friends that you see here boarded this private jet, but it's said that the pilot noticed that Juice WRLD had a bunch of drugs and guns on the plane, so he alerted police. And once the plane landed in Chicago, it was surrounded by police. So in order to hide some of his drugs, he ended up taking some pills and he overdosed, which resulted in him passing away. So that's pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 22. So here we have a girl named Jolie Callan. So before this picture was taken, Jolie agreed to go hiking with her ex-boyfriend, and she told her friends that if something happened to her, that her ex-boyfriend did it. And not long after this picture was taken, her ex-boyfriend shot Jolie and pushed her off this cliff. I don't know about y'all, but that's pretty dang scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 24. So this picture here was grabbed from security footage on December 1st of 2018, and it shows Grace Mullane and her Tinder date. After that security footage was taken, they went up to Grace's room, and Jesse ended up taking her life. The next morning, Jesse went out and bought some cleaning supplies and bought a suitcase, as you can see here in this picture, and I'm sure you can guess what he put in the suitcase. It's not even a what, it's a who. But a week later, he was arrested and sent to jail. But yeah, pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 25. So here we got Tony and Harold Henthorne out at the Rocky Mountains on their 12th anniversary. But shortly after this picture was taken, Harold ended up pushing Tony off the cliff. That's Harold, that's Tony. Harold had taken out a $4.7 million life insurance policy on his wife. And yeah, that was his motivation to take her life. So that's pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 26. So on May 28th of 2016, a 3-year-old boy climbed into the gorilla enclosure at the Cincinnati Zoo, where he was dragged and grabbed by Harambe, a 17-year-old gorilla. Fearing for the 3-year-old boy's life, a zoo worker ended up opening fire on Harambe, and it took his life. The 3-year-old made it out okay. But yeah, that's pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 25. So here we got a pic of old Mark Jackson playing some basketball, but if you look closely here, circled in the background, we have the Menendez brothers. So the Menendez brothers suffered years of abuse at the hands of their parents, and on August 20th of 1989, they took the lives of their parents, and they weren't caught until March of 1990. And so during that time, they went to a basketball game and were pictured here. So yeah, that's a little scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 26. So here we got a picture taken at a party, and the girl you see here is Elizabeth Smart. So yeah, this picture was taken not as much before disaster, but kind of during disaster. And if you don't know who Elizabeth Smart is, she was kidnapped at age 14 and held captive for 9 months by Brian David Mitchell and his wife Wanda Barzee. After those 9 months, Elizabeth was rescued, and both Brian and Wanda were arrested, but now Wanda has been set free. So yeah, that's kind of scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 27. So this picture here was taken on April 2nd of 1954. It was taken by a photographer named John Gaunt after he heard one of his neighbors shout something about something going on at the beach. So he grabbed his camera and shot this picture of this couple clutching each other. The reason the couple was clutching each other was that they had just learned that their 19-month-old had been swept out to sea, and in the next couple days, the child's lifeless body was found. Pictures taken before disaster, part 28. This picture here was taken in 1982 on New Year's Day, and the girl you see here is Patricia Gifford. If you look behind Patricia, you'll see a man named Dennis Socker. Dennis, later that night, would kidnap Patricia and then ended up taking her life. This picture here actually was used to help catch Dennis, so yeah, kind of scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 29. Here we got one of the last known images taken of Lil Peep. If you don't know, Lil Peep was a rapper, and on November 15th of 2017, his lifeless body was found on his tour bus by his manager. It was soon revealed that he overdosed on fentanyl, which was laced in the drugs which fans gave him. Pictures taken before disaster, part 30. Here we got one of the last known pictures taken of JonBenet Ramsey on Christmas morning in 1996. Just hours later, her lifeless body would be found in the basement of her own house. She had a broken skull and had been strangled. It was ruled a homicide, and to this day, nobody has ever been charged for this crime. I kind of think it was her brother, but that's pretty scary. Pictures taken before disaster, part 31. Pictured here, we have Nicholas Dworit. And unfortunately, around 30 minutes after this was taken, Nicholas became one of 17 victims of the Douglas High School massacre. The perpetrator was 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz, who has been charged. Pictures taken before disaster, part 32. Caught on surveillance footage, we have Austin Stephanos and Perry Cohen, two teenage boys who were heading out to sea. Unbeknownst to them, this is the last time they would ever be seen alive. The boys told their family that they were going on a fishing trip, but it's rumored that they were actually making a trip to the Bahamas. Not long after heading out to sea, they got caught in a storm and disappeared. After their disappearance, a massive search erupted, and their empty boat was found 100 miles off the coast of Bermuda. To this day, they've never been found. Pictures taken before disaster, part 33. So, pictured here we got Bart and Kevin Whitaker, who were brothers. Not long after this picture was taken, Bart had his mom, dad, and brother meet at their family cabin to celebrate his graduation, which turned out to be fake. And once they arrived, Bart, along with two accomplices, took the lives of Kevin and his mom. They tried to kill the dad, but they failed, and they staged it like a robbery. What makes this picture even more creepy is that if you look right here, you can see Bart flipping off the camera, and it's kind of like a little sign of what's gonna happen. So yeah, it's kind of scary.